Before we get into the intro, I have to correct an egregious error that my friend and producer just made.
Oh,
Egregious.
okay.
Let's get this chicken cooking, sir.
What was supposed to happen?
It's let's fuck this chicken. That
Oh,
is the
oh,
line.
oh, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sober Swole podcast. My name is Jake Howard.
Yes, it is. And I go by DJ Swirl.
Chocolate and vanilla swirl.
What's up, everyone?
Mm. That had some RZA vibes to it.
Some RZA vibes.
Yeah. What's up, everyone?
What's up, everyone? Like RZA or Wizard?
No, RZA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
You take it. That's a good one.
Thank you for the shirt coordination tonight as well.
Oh, we're just with our eyes too. We're just God, we're pretty.
We're on point tonight.
Tag team champions. Before we get into the show, I'd like to give a shout out to Royalty Nutrition. That's royaltynutrition.com. And to help me along with that, as always, is Warhorse.
Hey, it's Warhorse. Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay. If you want second place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Royalty Nutrition is a veteran-owned and operated supplement company that doesn't automatically use the cheapest ingredients while making their formulas. Check them out and use the discount code 37HAKE to save you 15% on your entire order. My next shout out of the evening will be to Gorilla Gains. That's gorilla-gains with a Z.com. They are a fitness apparel company that you can wear comfortably in and out of the gym. They also make great equipment that helps keep you safe while you train. Use the discount code JAKE15 to save you 15% on your entire order. And that's all I got to talk about. But we switch over here to the magnificent DJ Swerve to talk about his empire of Bye to Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody, I have to stop doing that. I have to just say everyone. If you find yourself shopping in store or online, you don't have the time, towing, or the muscle to move it, give us a call. Find us at BUYTOBYE everywhere you are, and we will help you get it home from the time you buy until the time we say goodbye. This is the content creation side of that. We do remote podcasting, tutorials, live streaming. We do it all, and we do it from the comfort of your own confines. So, like, Jake is somewhere in the Santan, and I'm over here in good old Mesa. But guess what? We get to meet. Our minds meet here in the metaverse every week, and we can do the same thing for you. Check us out at BUYTOBYE, Bye to Bye Studios. Yeah, Jake, what we got for the show tonight?
Hang on, this is going to drive me so dang crazy. So I'm going to have to change my whole desk setup because gross. That's as good as it's getting for now.
Where's it at?
Good enough for government work, baby. Anyway, I'd like to give just a quick talk about my firstborn, my blood firstborn, love of my life, young ruthless Howard. Like many curious 3-year-olds, she is a big fan of pushing boundaries and trying to figure things out. And
what?
Yeah, that's weird. Who would have thought? Especially my daughter, you know, like what?
Sure.
So we have her potty trained, and of course, like a bunch of little kids, she's obsessed with. Wow, you push this magical button on the potty, and everything in it disappears. So it started out. She'd come back, and she'd let her run off, and she knows how to put the seat on the toilet and climb up there and wipe and wash her hands and come back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I will give my child leeway. I will let her use the bathroom in privacy.
Poof.
You know, and like, this has been a long time coming. Like, she like earned it. Like, oh, she knows what to do. It's
Yeah.
fine. Well, then she started flushing her underwear down the toilet and taking toys for rides in the magical toilet. And and it wasn't just underwear. Then it was her underwear and her shirt. Then it was her underwear and her pants and her shirt. And like,
Fantastic.
all I know is this toilet downstairs is made out of something magic, because none of that clogged it up.
Nothing.
Nothing. Not even a. So, sorry, Queen Creek, you got my kids' clothes in there. No, all you waterworks folks, that's our bad.
And so now that so Ruth is doing it, it's causing a scene.
Well, so we've had to have talks about the only thing that goes in the potty is pee and poop and toilet paper, because otherwise you'll break the toilet. Because her and Marley got brand new toothbrushes, and she flushed both of them, and they were down in there so deep that I couldn't see them. So, luckily, I bought a toilet snake once upon a time because Mila accidentally dropped a pair of nail clippers down the toilet when we were living in the apartment, and didn't tell anybody until,
Cool.
yeah. And so luckily I already had the tools. So, I mean, that bathroom's right next to Britt's office and my office in the living room. It's a great centralized downstairs waste facility. So having that being down is not good.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, it took me 2 days, actually. It took me 2 days to get both toothbrushes out of like fishing and getting frustrated. And
How long are these sessions each time?
I'd go in for like 10 minutes and then get real fucking pissed and walk off, and then have to do a bunch of other stuff, then come back and motherfucker.
And it's just waiting for you.
Mm-hmm. But I got one out each day.
So
And I had a A Christmas Story,
sure.
when the dad like wins and gets the heater back on.
Oh, you're not talking about the leg lamp. You're talking about the heater downstairs.
So yeah.
Gotcha.
Like he gets but like, aha, fricka. Because they were trying to stave the swearing or whatever.
Sure.
I popped that last toothbrush and I went, motherfucker!
Oh my. And has either of them said it back to you yet? That has to be coming.
It's already happened.
Oh, it has?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
Oh, because
Do
we
you
were
say it with
getting out.
frequency?
That's it. I've been working on it, because when we were getting we were unloading everybody one day, because all the big kids were at the house. And I had already got out of the car, and I was opening the door to get Marley out. And apparently by the time I had gotten out of my car, and before I could get this slider door open where Marley was sitting, Ruth had already yelled at everyone, "Get out of the car, motherfuckers!"
Oh, no. That's kind of adorable.
Yeah.
Kind of fucking adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, did everybody... Do your kids snitch on her? Do they...
Oh, yeah, as
Everybody
they were
laugh?
like laughing.
Yeah.
As they were laughing. The funniest one was... so, like, I guess for like half of Marley's life, I've been hurt, because, she's only 1.5.
Yeah.
But I'd sit down and, oh, fuck. And just I finally took the pressure off my back and sat down. And one day Molly comes up and she comes up and sits down next to me. And she, fuck. Ooh.
Yeah, man, that's a gem right there.
Father of the year.
Yep. So speaking of Marley, has Ruth's toilet flushing obsession, has that parlayed to her? Does she do it, or is she too little still?
Yeah, she's still too little, but
Okay.
she's asking to go sit on the potty more.
Mm.
Like she doesn't use it, but she'll say, "I go potty. Take me a potty." And we'll walk over and I'll sit her there, and she'll done.
Like,
so I
okay.
hand her a little piece of toilet paper, and she'll down. Okay, but she likes to pretend she's a big girl.
Yeah, I don't have neither of the girls have had an issue with the toilet. No. Anna's into makeup. And so like if there's anything that has to do with the bathroom, it'll just be 40 colors of nail polish, the cotton swabs, all of the everything you need to do it. And it will either be the case because she's mid mani-pedi, or she's just done. She'll leave the whole thing sitting there. So, yeah, that's her thing. She, when she gets up in the morning, man, if she's ready to go, she's ready to go, which is a good sign for me, but it's bad for Miss Snooze. So, yeah, the Mrs. and Rylan are not early risers, so but those little things that your kids do that in the right context and in the privacy of your own home, just don't let them take that outside.
Yeah, we're so is it next? I think it's next week. Ruth starts preschool. So
how are you feeling about that?
I'm pretty stoked, but it's also like, oh man, my baby's growing up.
Sure.
But it's also like, how awesome is that going to be just to have like 2 half days a week to where it's just being Marley?
Yep.
Because Marley doesn't like, I'm gonna screw myself, but she usually is not the one that gets into trouble. She's usually just stumbling around and playing and being sweet, like she's like sweet to her dolls and stuff, and
yeah,
she'll just come and sit down. How Marley tells me she wants a snack is pretty cute.
How's that?
Well, she walks over and she'll stroke her beard. So, let's see. And I'll say, well, what do you want? Snack.
So is she like in the kitchen doing that, or does she get like right in front of you?
Yeah, she'll get right in front of me. And then and if I do anything else other than stroke my beard back and say, she gets pissed.
Ooh. What's the ETA on her getting upset?
We're playing a game here, and you know the game, and it's you get your ass up and you get me something.
Yep.
Give me a cracker. You know the rules. And so do I.
So speaking of kids, I sent you a video that
yes
you did not see, or you did see.
I did see that. Yeah,
okay.
It's a good one.
Okay, so last week we had a discussion over
the goat.
Yeah, young gentleman making a mockery of bodybuilding, but with the potential positive outcome of more exposure for all those involved. This video, I don't know, since we're talking about parenting and our kids being reckless and wrestling. Woo! Kidding.
Randy Orton, oh my God, Randy Orton in the corner, Big Show's prone here, Big Show's prone. Off the distraction! Randy Orton came on Big Show as Big Show was staring at the Authority.
Yeah, but can Randy Orton capitalize on it? Can he cover the Big Show?
What an incredible turn of events here. Big Show and Randy Orton get the rights before he
It's adorable, and hopefully their insurance doesn't get a hold of this, because when he got up on the dresser, I was like, okay, next level, off the ropes. And then he put his head down. I was like, oh. So how many times has this gone down before this video?
Oh, a bunch.
A bunch.
A bunch. That's like father-son activity.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, like I remember.
Do you do this with Ruth?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the girls know. Like, so I'll go and I'll put them in like a front headlock and put their arm over my shoulder, and I'll pick them up and I'll tell them, put your legs up, put your legs up. And they know the moment they put their legs straight up, I fall back. You know, just a big vertical suplex. But
yep.
like, if you're laying down, they drop either a Ruthie bomb or a Marley bomb on you. They'll just come over and just cross, splash
unsolicited.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's time to play.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
So,
I have that weird protective instinct to not allow my girls to be too reckless or too rowdy, but still giving them, that wiggle room, but with the understanding that they just keep escalating everything. So it'll start off and then they'll change the rules midway and 2 or 3 minutes in, and then it doesn't take long for one of them to start screaming. And it's usually the youngest because it's always at her expense. So
my whole thing is I'm cool with it if you're wrestling with me.
Yeah.
Like you leave each other alone. If you want to wrestle, you can wrestle with daddy, that kind of thing. But yeah, I've always said too, like, I have no problem raising little people with being who they are, but they're not going to be soft.
Yeah.
Like you can have a nice, kind, soft heart, but you're going to have to realize that there's some things that you're going to have to be hard about. And like, and a lot of that comes through being able to withstand minuscule amounts of physical pain.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's just something I've always believed. It's like, I'm not out to like, I'm gonna break your arm to teach you a lesson or anything like that. But it's like, this is a headlock. This is you're obviously too young for like, okay, here you are in a arm bar. This is how you get out. This, nothing like that. But there's a video of me somewhere where I have like Ruth was like 1 and I had her in a Boston Crab.
It's funny watching Rylan be more aggressive, but in retaliation. And then Anna is just reckless. And then once she realizes she gets hurt in some fashion, she realizes, oh, maybe I shouldn't go so hard. So we went to like a bounce facility and we were having a good time. And so talking about testing limits, I get the mental picture of like a kid being thrown into the water, not being able to swim, and their dad standing on the dock saying, all right, make your way up, and just watching them struggle. But we're at like a big pad pit, and so she wants to jump in like we are, because I'm trying to teach Rylan how to fall, and so she can't just sit by and watch. And so I pick her up instead of allowing her to jump in because she was scared. I just tossed her into the pit, and so midway she like tensed up and she freaked out. And so when she landed kind of awkwardly with her neck, but just because she was like super stiff, she didn't allow her body to hit. And so she cried and she complained about it right after. But I'm just like, you either learn this way or you fall face forward and do a scorpion into the, that little space that is either not padded or they make their way through somehow.
Speaking of that, this is a tangent, but it applies.
Good.
So there is an adult actress named Adriana Chinchek,
You're
but
not
she's
gonna get.
apparently
I cannot confirm.
no, you're fine. But she's a big streamer on Twitch too,
Okay.
and so she was at TwitchCon, and they had a foam pit that wasn't set up right, like it wasn't like deep enough, so all of the like you had a couple of the foam blocks on some like really hard ground or something, and people were jumping in it and playing and whatever, and they were like jump in, jump in. So she falls in backwards and broke her back in 2 places.
No. When did this happen?
This is a couple days ago.
Oh, very recently.
Earlier this week, yeah. And so the funniest joke I saw about it, though, there was a journalist or a writer from BuzzFeed that reached out and said, "Oh my God, please follow me back and let's have a DM conversation about this." And it applies with her work as an adult actress. So one of the guys responded underneath it as 11 ways to get your back blown out. Number 4 will shock you.
Jesus. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know if that applies here or not. No,
a good place woo always applies, sir.
yeah, I don't, or maybe it's this one. Maybe the R2 freak out is more appropriate for this one. But no, how did that come up in your timeline? How did that come up in your feed?
Because someone had retweeted the response to the
Okay.
BuzzFeed guy.
Gotcha. It's always
And-
I'm always interested how people come across things, especially on Twitter, because it can be from anywhere.
Yeah, someone had retweeted the response from the BuzzFeed guy with a like a laughing gif above it. So I went and looked at it, and I went,
Is there a video of her falling?
yeah.
Oh man.
Well, so and it's the thing is, it doesn't look like it's anything too serious, but she's obviously laying there like in some severe pain, and like and like can't get up, and people in the crowd are like, "Get up, walk it off, you're fine."
Wow.
Yeah, but like come to find out, like these people that set up the convention made an improper.
So she's made a living for how long? Couple
I'd say a
decades?
few years. No,
A few years?
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And
because
she's
I
gonna-
remember
and she's gonna make the most money ever off of this settlement, more than likely.
probably.
Yeah.
Because I remember the only reason why like I even know who this person is because there's a big running joke with people that can't say Bert Kreischer's name,
Okay.
and the comedian, and someone typed his name in like one of her Twitch chats, and she obviously butchered his name, and it got back to Tom Segura, who thinks it's hilarious because Bert's his best friend and they're always fucking with each other.
Yeah.
And they ran with it and made a big old joke about it. And there's multiple. I mean, it was pretty funny. That's the only reason why I even know this person exists. But yeah, man. Sorry. So, foam pits.
No, you're. Hey, man, it's relevant. Like it's recent. I mean, and it's gonna get. What's the title we have so far?
Baby Brawlers and Dahmer.
Baby Brawlers and Dahmer. Might as well add. What's it? Chechik? Yeah. Question mark.
I'm not live Googling.
Where are we at? Hold on. I got in real time. In real time, sir. Absolutely. So yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into the last topic. Speaking of relevance.
Yeah.
I'll let you run with this one.
So they recently released on Netflix a series that was a Hollywooded up version of Jeffrey Dahmer and how he ended up becoming this serial killer. And I watched it with the missus because she likes, creepy, weird stuff too. Like, let's see. They didn't do a they did it was interesting, and it wasn't too bad of a Hollywooded up job. Um, this was a guy who obviously had abandonment issues from his adolescence involving his parents, and um, he was a gay man that had these issues, but also had a weird obsession with corpses and bones and bodies, and it manifested itself into these murders where he would take and he would uh, coerce men and a couple times children into wherever he was staying at the time, drug them, strangle them, and then piece their bodies up. And then he would keep a part of them. And then I think it was 17 or 18 total victims. I'm not, that's slipping my mind, but either way, it's a large number. And this started off as a real young cat. Like he was, when he was a teenager, he thought about, he saw a guy that would jog by his house, and he wanted him. So he was like, I'm gonna knock him out while he's jogging and just take him into the basement. And then, yeah, man, like it's just wild.
And what was the time frame? When did this happen?
It was his first murder was in like 1978,
Late 70s. Okay.
and then he was convicted in like 1991.
So a whole decade of Dahmer.
Yeah.
And up until this point, how familiar were you with not just his name but his story?
Well, I knew that he was. I knew that he was a gay dude that was a cannibal.
Yeah, when I hear the name Dahmer, I immediately think of eating people.
Yeah.
That's it. That was it.
Yep.
I had no idea his sexual preference. I didn't know the makeup of the list of his victims, whether that's their background or that's their age. Like, I didn't know how young they got.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, perversion is a perversion, but like what you mentioned before the show was how taken aback you were at the leniency and the lengths at which he was given the benefit of the doubt, so he could not only just get away with something but continue to do it.
So the whole, it's nuts. There is a Laotian family where he actually victimized two of their sons
Poof.
at different times, and he was originally arrested for like sexual assault of a minor with one of these Laotian boys, and he was given a year prison sentence with work release. So what that means was he committed the crime, but he could go to work, but he just had to go back to prison at night.
Right.
And then, but while he was out of prison, he was still like, he would still kill people.
So he was on parole or on work release and was still
doing his thing. Yeah.
Yikes.
And then like the first one was at, I guess, his parents' house, and then he lived with his grandma. He killed a couple people. He was living with his grandma, and then he ended up moving into a predominantly black neighborhood, and that's where he was killing folks at the apartment. I watched the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes, which is the people that actually had conversation, like his like defense attorneys and people that actually had conversations with him and recorded everything that he said.
Right.
And it was Another interesting thing was there was a black gentleman and his wife that lived across the hallway from him, and he was like, I considered him my friend. Like,
Sure. Yeah, you hear about it all the time when these things go down. Their next door neighbor or someone who has very close proximity to them is always on record stating, "I had no idea. It took me by surprise." Um, and even that you hear that same rhetoric when it comes to school shooters and people who commit what we consider egregious crimes. There is always padding around them that allows them to just escape accountability. Like it's not even like justice. It's simply because there's a the mental health aspect of it, and there's a lot of alcohol abuse in this as well. Correct?
yes, yeah, he was definitely an alcoholic.
Yeah. So
He,
that's something that I had no idea prior to
yeah, he
this.
talked because Dahmer was talking to his lawyer, after, and 'cause she recorded the whole thing because they were working on his insanity case, and he was talking about one of the guys he killed. They had gotten a hotel room. It was just going to be a one night thing, hotel room, and the they I guess they were just drinking and partying and doing two dudes in a hotel room stuff, and he woke up with his fist covered in blood, and like he had beat this dude's chest in with his fists
Jeez.
in like a drunken blackout. And he was like, "Yeah, I had no desire. I had no intentions of killing him."
Yeah. Does that happen? Do people do that on cannabis?
I have never heard of
Okay.
someone
Checking.
smoking too much weed and then
And then
killing
wanting
their
to
lovers.
wanting to Mortal Kombat somebody.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, man. These kind of series are always. I guess I just don't have the motivation to watch a lot of them. What I did see of it, and I saw quite a bit, was while my wife was watching it and I was doing other things, and so I heard it. It was going on. I could see it in my peripheral vision. So I caught bits and pieces of it, but yeah, just the idea that one serial killers and mass murderers tend to be dominated by a certain demographic. So
Hmm.
when that same treatment, the Hollywooding that you're talking about, when that same treatment is not given to the exceptions whose names we can't remember, who are not, who don't fit that stereotype, like they don't get these Netflix shows, like the creepy guy on Netflix, the other show, a
Hmm.
lot of the true crime stuff, like it's all the audience is overwhelmingly white and the perpetrators are overwhelmingly white. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's like there's a weird voyeurism element to it, to where it's like, oh, I can get my toe wet in this debauchery and all of this murder, but from the safety of my house. Like it feels really weird um, to monetize it. We do that to everything, but there's only a certain demographic that gets this attention, let alone to talk about it, or they get just the overwhelming influence on people's timelines, because that's a big thing. And so I couldn't remember the last few days reaching, scrolling through my phone and not seeing someone talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to watch that, because on the other side of that, when the demographic isn't white, it's always about death. It's always about thugs. It's always about you know overcoming an oppressor of sorts. And so, like, it's just a trope at this point. And for it to be this time frame, to be 2022 and still talking about stuff from 78, and giving it a new a new breath of air. Like there's really no need to do that. And there had already been other stuff done. You said the Dahmer tapes. When did that come out?
I didn't see, but He was a part of that series where it's kind of like they had the John Wayne Gacy tapes, and they also have the Ted Bundy
Yeah,
interviews and shit like that.
there's like a weird fascination to it.
I have a weird fascination with serial killers. Not in the sense of like maybe one day I can do this, but more of like it's more of a I guess I kind of want to understand how a human being can just turn off their humanity to such a level to where they're truly animalistic and 100% just give in to whatever desire they have. Like they highlighted him a little bit in this series because there was case precedent there. They were trying to use Dahmer's court case about Ed Gein, and I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was a guy in like the 30s, and he was who Buffalo Bill was based off of in Silence of the Lambs.
Gotcha.
But most of the crimes that he committed he wasn't necessarily a serial killer. He did kill a couple people, but most of the crimes he committed involved grave robbing.
So victimless, essentially.
Yeah, but except for the hardware store owner that he just said, "I'm gonna take you home and gut you."
Oh, okay.
But most of his crimes technically were desecration of bodies because, like in his house, he had like a human skin lampshade and like
Okay, cool.
a belt made out of nipples, like just like yeah,
I'm just trying to think of the logistics behind that.
this dude was working.
The
How's
selling
that?
behind that.
Yeah, like he was. I'm not trying to justify anything, but he was like nuts. And then they touched on John Wayne Gacy too. That dude was out of his gourd. But anyway, like I'm more of have a curiosity about how a human brain can break,
Right.
or how you can turn off all of your morality.
I don't know, man. With this, speaking of other, this is a bit of a tangent as well. But like the situation going on in Iran, like with the young girls, the protesters who are being murdered because of their hair, and the protests and the backlash. Like those people are literally called morality police, and they have the power to basically judge Dredd, to take someone out who yeah, and then you see the extension of that in our police force in the US, and there are other police forces in different parts of the world, and just military, you know, personnel who abuse authority. So it's just kind of like
I don't
in
know
the
if it's
case,
still the case,
well, no, but
but
in the case of like a Dahmer or a serial killer, right? Like there is a perversion, there is something that's off, and they get to hide beneath the they're hiding in plain sight. And so, but when it comes to police, it's the same situation. When it comes to the morality police in Iran, like they have the ability, and most of these people are, I assume, sober because they're on the clock and it's their profession, and they still execute people for the sake of cowardice, not because because in the effort, in terms of crime, doesn't a criminal deserve an opportunity to rehab?
right,
Or is every crime just a death sentence? Because in terms of morality, death should be the last thing on the table.
right.
Like
Well, see,
torture,
that's
all of the things that end up resulting in it, it's under the guise they're hiding it. So these officers, these military, whoever it is, they get to hide in plain sight behind the badge.
Listen, before we went off, this comes back to what, because you had brought it up. We moved on from it, but like, um, not only was this dude a smooth talker, but I guess one of the things that was going on in the '90s with was they had a gentleman there that was an active member in the gay community in Milwaukee back in those days. It was a very up and coming community. It was very vibrant. Just people figuring out who they were and living life and partying. And you could walk to all the bars. They were in like certain like a few blocks radius of each other, where you could just go and hang out and meet new dudes and whatever.
Yep.
But so I guess most of the time, in most instances, the police were just hands off when it came to gay dudes and their issues.
Because of the HIV scare, right?
Well, the HIV scare and,
Propaganda. Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to touch them. Don't touch them homos.
Yeah. One of the scene that I did see was, I think it's one of the brothers you were talking about. It was
it was the one that got killed. Yeah.
So he like escapes the apartment and is found on the street, and long story short, it boiled down to gay stuff going on that they didn't want to get involved with, so much so that as they're leaving, they mentioned that they were going to go home and shower.
The delouse. My partner said we're gonna go back to the station and delouse, and that was an actual quote. You can find the radio call.
Yeah.
Like the officer actually said that, and they're laughing.
Yeah.
They're both laughing to each other.
So yeah, whether it's the ignorance, the propaganda, whatever you have, it's the same thing. It's more of an opportunity to find out actually what's going on, but they use their ignorance to excuse it, to allow something that's super sketchy to just go on, and they just go about their business.
Well, and then if you looked at the pictures of this young man, he's the guy that really almost got him caught and should have got him caught. It was obviously a kid, like obviously a young teenage boy.
Yep.
And that was the guy that he was trying. It was the second attempt at making a zombie. Was that? So he had drilled a hole in this kid's head and dropped muriatic acid in his brain to try and like kill his intellect and make him more,
shit.
like just subdued. Because Dahmer's biggest thing was he didn't want people to leave him. That's why he kept, after he killed people, that's why he kept like their skulls or like their hands and shit, or their genitals. Because that goes back to his abandonment issues from as a kid, but like he's like, no, I didn't want them to leave. What was wild, and they made it a big deal on the show, was there was a deaf mute guy that was one of his victims. But they had known each other for years, and I guess they had hooked up in the past too. But like, he was like, I'm going to turn this dude into a zombie. And killed him drilled a hole in his head, dropped acid in there, and it was like too much and killed him.
Too much. As if a little bit is.
Yeah, well, so what he did with the kid was the kid lived, and he was just like slower. He was like, yeah, it was, he talked, he'd move, but he listened. And whatever I wanted him to do is just what he did.
Wow.
And dude, and he goes, so when I got him back in the house, I did a lower dose of the acid, but that's what killed him.
Yeah. Awesome sauce.
Yeah, like, wow.
And the place, didn't he have another dead body in there? And so it
was
clearly reeked.
Yeah, it was the first guy he tried to make into a zombie. He was still there.
Jesus. Yeah, man. The Liberties, serial killers, white male serial killers are given.
What's nuts is that with the actual police, like the police came up with him, with the little boy, and they said, yeah, he just went over and sat on the couch like he lived there. And then,
with muriatic acid in his brain.
in his brain. But like the thing is with a lot of so your brain doesn't necessarily bleed, and then once you get over that initial capillary bleed in your brain, like you're not going to see a lot of blood of the skull, or like really, if you still have your hair, you're not really going to see a head wound
Sure.
kind of thing, especially when it's like a little drill bit dropping in there. So like, yeah, we didn't see any signs of like physical abuse or anything. He wasn't bleeding anywhere, yada yada yada. So we believed his story about him being just too drunk. Or
Yeah, like you said, the liberty's given. Have you seen or watched the Patient series
I'm not.
on Netflix, on Hulu, Netflix, FX? Yes, FX on Hulu.
No, I have seen like the previews for it, and Steve Carell is in it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
It looks really interesting.
another take on the serial killer, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's not done yet, but and I don't remember the last episode. I fall asleep to so many shows now, but that was one show that we had paused on watching because of being tired, and we're like, do we have enough to watch this a full episode tonight? Because it makes you think. You have to pay attention to the details and things like that. So less brutal, but still the creep factor, and that it feels, based off of the premise, it feels like more of an examination of and the psychology behind a murderer's mind, as opposed to the sexual nature, the scandal, this, all the Hollywooding that you spoke of with Dahmer. This doesn't feel like that. It feels like a bad situation gone worse. So, but yeah, it's definitely something to check out. The Patient, Steve Carell.
On an even lighter note, but still involving murder, Only Murders in the Building. Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
With Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez.
Yep.
That show is great.
Oh yeah.
That show is great.
Have you watched? There's 3 seasons, 2 seasons.
2 seasons. They're getting ready for the 3rd season.
Yeah. I watched the first 2 seasons. Why did you think it was great?
Oh, it's funny. And then it made you think at the same time too. Kind of like obviously the premise is ridiculous because there's no way that this kind of podcast could be happening live.
Sure.
During the an actual
Sure.
investigations and things, and then like the 2nd season we're like, oh okay.
It's funny to me because it feels like every time I see Selena Gomez, she doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like her disposition is. It reminds me of Alicia Silverstone from Clueless, not like Valley Girl, but privileged and doesn't need to care. Like her character is consistent. Everything, like even when she sings, like she never like goes hard. She never like strains herself when she sings. It's always like very singable by the average person. So it's like I just gave her kudos for continuing that hot streak of getting a lot of attention for something without having to do much. But when you have Martin Short and
Steve Martin,
oh, yeah, they'll carry it for you. So.
Well, yeah, they've been working together for years, and they're both hysterical by themselves.
Yeah,
like still one of the funniest comedies you'll watch is oh, son of a bitch.
Yep.
It's Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase, and they're the actors.
I'm gonna let you figure this one out.
They got roped into. Is it the Three Amigos?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That movie's great.
I have to watch it back because I'm sure there's a lot of problematic stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean they're white guys dressed up in traditional mariachi costumes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel so great. Oh man.
Well, I mean, I'll still watch. Part of my lessons on how racism is ignorant is I'll have kids sit down and like, this is Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
And this is them making fun of every stereotype and every racist ever. Enjoy.
Oh, did you want to talk about the Raiders game?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hit Ryan up last Monday, and I was like, "Do you think the Raiders are going to pull this off?" And you were like, "Nope."
I said the Raiders before the end of the game finished. I sent him a text when things got tight again. I was like, Raiders gonna Raider. They always find a way to mess it up. And as a Bears fan who's the organization doesn't do enough to keep the team competitive, they just bankroll off of the support. Like the Raiders are another one of those organizations, man. It's like it's wild. It's wild how unsuccessful they are, but yet how popular they still are. And
Mhm.
Monday night was just another example of doing everything right and then just playing not to lose. And then having the most egregious officiating call of this decade. I'll say that with confidence. In the last 2 years, I've seen some bad calls, but like I put
Was
something
it
together that I'm gonna post probably this weekend. But like
just two in the same week? Not. I
Jesus.
mean, there was the Tom Brady. He threw me
Oh
down,
yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
and then like how are you even supposed to play football if you can't tackle a quarterback anymore?
Just take off your pads. Just play two hand touch.
Yeah.
Just play two hand touch. If you want to be, if you want to, if you want to remove the gridiron from the game, do so. Go all in.
And I think we're both saying this with respect and understanding that we do understand more now about head injuries than we have in the past.
Most
But like,
definitely. Most
but like,
definitely. It's the execution, man. It's not the
yeah,
rule. It's not the idea of protecting quarterbacks. We all agree that when you hit helmets that you ought to try and reduce the amount of times that's going to happen, right? We can all agree on that. However, when you allow officiating to get involved in a game to the point to where it completely changes the dynamic in both aspects, both with Tua from Miami and with
hmm
Brady in Tampa Bay, like the idea that you're going to protect quarterbacks who, after getting sacked for 2 decades, you ought to know how to fall. You ought to know how to wrap your body up. But no, quarterbacks know now because of the protection, they're going to sell the foul. So they'll flail their arms. They'll sell the feeling. And so they don't talk about that. They don't magnify that. But then when Tua gets rocked, and then they let him come back in the same game, like that toughness, that yeah, what's his name, the New York Knick who came um, back in the '70s, hurt himself and came back and finished the game. Paul Pierce got taken out on a wheelchair when he played for the Celtics and came back during the game. Like there's a level of admiration tapped or attached to sportsmanship and
and toughen it
toughing it
out.
out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But man, the way that you try to protect Brady after the way that Brady has been protected, even when he got hurt, like that was a freak hit. Like those kind of hits don't happen often enough because of the way that the rules are in place. And so
hmm
after it happened, man, they just decided they were going to protect him at all costs. And again, when it ultimately affects the end result, it's it causes more harm than it does good. So and they'll use that to say, oh, now you're being too soft and I'll let someone else get rocked. But then like so it went from allowing Tua to get rocked, come back in and play more, and then he's still out. Brady takes a hard hit, and they wound up adding a penalty that allows him to win the game. And then Monday night, Carr gets sacked. He doesn't even lose. He doesn't even hit the ground yet, and the call is almost already made, and the flag is coming out for the foul. But the foul is for roughing the passer, and he is no longer a passer if he loses possession of the ball.
Yeah. He was strip sacked, is what he was.
He's a ball carrier. So he
Mhm.
got stripped, and as soon as he lost possession of the ball, he now became the defender. So he loses any kind of protection, one for quarterbacks or two for an offensive player. So
Yep.
that all happened in a split second. And it was only allowed to happen the way it did because they overstepped, because they said, "Oh, Tua, oh, Brady, oh." And so he came out, he came off the ground with the ball to where if they were going to do anything, they were going to let the play resume, let a tackle be made or whatever happens, and then go back because it's a turnover. They have to review it, right? So there are ways that you can do it and allow yourself to not be look like the way that all these officiating crew is now. Like, and then when you have the announcers, they can't help but then to comment on it because you see it in real time. You're just like, dude, it's so bad.
Well, and Troy Aikman, who is no stranger to getting knocked in the dome, he brought up a really good point because when Bill Parcells was coaching, he said something when they were talking about making plays reviewable, and he said something like, "Well, you better make every play reviewable."
Yep.
Because and Troy was like, "Then you should make roughing the passer reviewable." Like, I mean, if you're going to, then you have to make that play reviewable.
And they do that in college, correct? Mm-hmm. So when they have
well,
targeting,
with
does that
targeting,
work the same way? In the NFL, is there a targeting rule or no?
There's it's not a targeting rule in the NFL. It's all pass interference. Or
do they allow them to throw them out of the game if it's egregious, or is it just a warning?
I think that's referee's discretion.
Okay.
Like,
because college, there's a foul on the play, and then they take the time to go back and review just the hit to see if it deserves, like a flagrant foul in basketball. So that's not hard to do. And so in the situation with Carr getting sacked, strip sacked, and then the time frame, like the amount of time that happened from the hit to Jones coming up with the ball, is like 2 seconds. It's very quick. And the whistle to have already been blown, they didn't even allow it to happen. So, and there was no, like, it's a conference game. Like, it's supposed to be testy or whatever, but like getting involved with the way they did, man, I cannot see how people, I'm in fantasy football, and like just that play right there, whether you had Kansas City's defense, whether you had Carr, whatever the case may be, or if you had money in the line with DraftKings and everything else, like, you most definitely, people lost money. It affected their pocketbooks one way or another, that awful call. So how do you not have trust in that system when they sell fantasy football and DraftKings and
it's all they talk about is,
bro. How do you sell that? How do you participate in that? And then they take that and you get to see it in real time. And then they show the replay over and over again. So you just get to see the money you lost just keep getting replayed. It's crazy.
And part of their sponsorship deal is like the NFL has to be getting a cut of like the losses or some shit. Like,
there's fine print somewhere.
Yeah, like.
And then talk radio the next day, ESPN all next day. They're just going to repeat the same messages, the same narrative over and over and over and over again. And all of it, most of the attention is outside of the obvious thing, is letting a play commence and then giving yourself the time to go back and get the facts right, get the time right, get the, because like when it's 2 minutes, it was less than 2 minutes in the second half. So that's automatically reviewed by the booth. So it wouldn't even have been a coach's challenge situation to where they didn't have the ability to stop it and they lost out that way. I could see that. But for all those things to be true and for the definition to be as high as it is with the technology being used, no reason.
Who we got in here?
You know who we got.
Hey, buddy.
Good old Flex Chef.
I always wonder about that. I'm not into betting fantasy because I'm not good with stats. Yeah. No, fantasy football is you just pick your team and hope your players do good. But when it comes to like betting overs and unders and yards per drive and
all the prop bets, all the in between
prop bets, stuff like that, that's where it gets a little wonky.
So there was a prop bet for Kansas City was, will Travis Kelce score a touchdown? And so, most people overwhelmingly selected yes. And the 18%, I think, that did not, they got to watch him do it 4 times.
4 times.
So it's like the amount of times that a tight end has scored 4 times in a game ever, let alone that he does it in such a fashion, because he caught 4 touchdowns and had less than like 60 yards receiving. So
Yeah, that was
everything was in the
ridiculous.
red zone. So even just the way it happened is very rare. So yeah, man, you can't. How do you predict something like that happening?
Flex Chef says he's a Raiders fan.
Yeah, you got here at the right time, right after we just finished talking about your boys. 'Cause
pooping the pants.
doing what? No, it's the Raider way.
Just win, baby.
50-50. Like they're a coin flip. They are literally 8-8 every year. Again, I'm a Bears fan. I know we're in the same zone of mediocrity with a great fan base, but like, man, when they were up 17-0, you hit me up. I was just like, I didn't even freak out. I didn't say anything. No jinx, no nothing. Just kind of let it happen. And sure enough, they did what Raiders do.
It's every damn year. It's okay, Matt. I'm a Texans fan.
Woo!
Because I like pain?
Yeah.
Schmucks.
All right, sir. Is there anything else you want to touch on tonight?
Well, I was going to say, did you see the Texans star running back? It's going to be their offense.
No. Who's that?
The kid's good. I can't remember his last name. But he's fast. He's good. Great vision. He can move.
So is he the next Arian Foster?
Dude, he's probably going to be like the next Barry Sanders player.
Aaron was nice.
No, I'm saying, but like, unless they get him out of there, I'm talking about wasting his career.
Got you. All I know is I have the number 1 draft pick with Jonathan Taylor, and he has not produced this year. So I got the injury bug. I got like 5 people on my team. And I had the Seattle running back who just got knocked out for the season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had Travis Kelce on my team. He scored 4 touchdowns, put up like 36 points for me, and I got beat by 30. So his 4 touchdown game basically didn't happen in my eyes. So
Yeah.
that's how I felt watching that game.
Lamar Jackson's cooling off. I need him to not do that anymore.
Oh man, it's the league. They always react.
It's my wide receivers suck.
Yeah, Bateman got hurt. They've had some injuries too.
Got Saquon Barkley though.
Oof. That's nice. I just put up a trade offer for Kelce. Just to entice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a couple running backs because mine haven't been depleted. And I haven't checked on it, but I doubt it to go through.
Oh no. Oh no. I just got a text from the missus.
Okay.
And it says, "Why are these children wide awake?"
Awesome
So-
sauce. Well,
I need to go do dad stuff.
we have crossed the hour mark. We did
it.
Special.
Right, we did it.
We
We
did.
did it, buddy.
We do it. Whether it was 45 minutes last week or hitting the 60-minute mark this week, we do those things.
Marathon men. All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Silver Swole podcast. My name is Jake Howard.
Woo!
And I go by DJ Swirl. I'm not gonna worry about it. I got you. It's dope.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, it's Warhorse. Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay. If you want second place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.